that yeah. um, that things have been updated in the program. And so you may hear things and be thinking things that are reflective of how the program was 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So today is where you get that most updated information about what's actually required for you to become a certified community action professional. We are going to go over the enrollment process step by step. We will go through the exam processes so that you understand what is required once you are a candidate to earn your certification. I'm going to talk about some resources that are available. And if time allows, I even want to tell you about once you get your certification, what does it take to keep that professional credential renewed and in good standing? So that's my agenda. And I will leave time for you all to answer or ask questions if you have them. So be jotting those down if you don't mind as we go along. I want to start off to just talk about the very basic idea of what professional credentialing is. So I think it's important to start there. Again, if you have some conceptions about what CCAP is, they may or may not be grounded in what the CCAP program actually is a part of, which is a professional credential. So a professional credential is something that examines and confirms or attests an individual's level of knowledge and proficiency in a certain industry or profession. Okay? So it's going to be that recognition of knowledge, skills, and competencies that you as a professional have already accumulated. And that third definition, the process by which the person proves that they have the knowledge, experience, and skills to perform a specific job. So you hear about professional credentialing everywhere. Plumbers can get professionally credentialed, teachers, real estate agents, lawyers. There's all types, shapes, and sizes of professional credentialing, but at the core, they all follow this purpose, and that is, does this individual possess the knowledge of the industry or the job well enough to perform it at its basic levels, basic required levels, and can they show us that they know how to apply that knowledge and those skills in the real world? Now, there's something here you did not hear me say in defining professional credentialing, and it's a pretty important piece. That is training. Professional credentialing is not a training process. It's an assessment process. You come to a professional credential with the skills and knowledge to test against the examinations. So CCAP in and of itself is not a process of learning a certain curriculum or learning certain skills. The credential and the testing process are exactly that. Did this person come to the exam with the knowledge and skills? Now, that may come as a surprise to some of you because you've probably heard people say that the CCAP program taught them a lot, that they learned more through this process than they have other professional training experiences. And that is also true. It's because people study for the exam. Some people participate in study groups. Some people really spend time preparing for the examination processes. And that's where significant learning, significant networking, building those skills, affirming that knowledge can happen, but it's not required. To be a CCAP candidate, you take examinations, and to become a CCAP, you pass those examinations. if you want to put something more into it and train and learn as you go down that path, you will get out of this program what you put into it. So I want you to be clear on that we are not going to provide you with training. Training is available, and most people benefit significantly from participating in advanced studying, either as a group or on their own. But the credential is about the examination and passing the examination. So it really is what you make of it on your journey there. So thinking about that and thinking about, am I coming to this examination process prepared to be a CCAP? There are some questions that the commission has put together that we think you can ask. And those include what I'm going to put up on the screen now. First of all, understand your why. Ask yourself, why do I want to be a CCAP? Do I have goals that put me in that area, or is this something that someone has told me I have to do and I'm really not committed to it and I don't quite understand it? What is your why? When you clarify that why or those goals, it not only helps you decide how much effort you'll be putting into the process, how you will stay on track when real life and real work feel like they're piling up at the same time that you're trying to study or trying to prepare. And it will also help you gain support from the people that you need to attest for you as part of your application. You'll be able to go to them, to your director, to your supervisor, to your colleagues and say, you know, I want to do this and here's why, and gain their support as well. Another good thing to do is to talk to other CCAPs. Find out why they became a CCAP. Find out what they got out of it and get their free insights for what they did to prepare. That will help you determine whether you're at that place and ready or not. Build your support team. Find out who's out there that supports your why and your enthusiasm, and find the people who will help you stay committed. Because as I said earlier, real life and real work doesn't stop because you're a CCAP candidate. Things come up, things go on. There is never, ever a great, perfect time to be a part of the program. You have to work it in. You have to stay committed in the midst of all those things coming up. And so knowing who your support team is and calling upon them when you need them, if you have that, that's going to be an important step to knowing if you're ready to be a CCAP. Read what we call the Community Action Body of Knowledge. This is the document that captures what you will be tested over. Now, it sounds pretty significant, and so I want you to know right away that the body of knowledge is not a 9,000-page book that you have to read through. It is an outline of what topics and basic knowledge experts in our field have determined that you need to know to be successful in community action. It's the Community Action Body of Knowledge. You'll see it sometimes abbreviated as BOK. It contains 5 different topic areas. It goes over the history of the community action movement, the vision and values of our movement, talks about traditional management skills that we use in community action and that people who are going to be successful in the field need to know about. Leadership in our network. Anyone can lead at any time and any place, right? CCAPs are leaders, and we need to know about leadership. And the 5th category is theories, causes of poverty, approaches and strategies to address those causes. What are we looking at now in the modern part of our work? What's innovative? What's new? What's working? What do we know doesn't work? theories about why poverty exists, and strategies for addressing it. That's your body of knowledge. And so under each of those categories, there's an outline. History of community actions going to start with pre-1964 and move forward to where we are today and look at all of the major milestones that historically the network has been through. So reading the body of knowledge can put you on the right track to knowing, hey, I get this, I understand this, right? Craft your learning plan. Once you look at that body of knowledge, you're going to know where you have strengths in your knowledge and where you might need to bolster up your knowledge and skills. So craft a learning plan, decide what that's going to look like, decide the time frame. That's the next piece, defining and committing to a time frame that you will use. But knowing what your path looks like can help you feel comfortable with whether or not you are ready. Now, that time frame we'll talk about in more detail as I get a little further into this presentation. But immediately you should know that when you become a candidate, you have 3 years to complete the process. Remember when I talked about real life and real work not stopping? Is it possible to do this in 1 year? Yes, and some people do. Not everyone does. And because we know the reality of being a professional in community action, the commission has said, you've got up to 3 years to complete all of the steps that you need to complete. So let that resonate with you because it will help you prepare your time frame. It will help you understand that you may have the opportunity to take the exams more than once, and that can be a real benefit and bonus because you're pacing yourself over that 3-year period. So after you consider those pieces and you decide, hey, I'm ready, this is it, I am down with becoming a CCAP, the next step and the really first step in your big journey is to enroll. So we'll talk about that, but I just want to review these for you quickly. Understand your why, talk to CCAPs, build your support team, read that community action body of knowledge, and understand where you need to craft your learning plan to build up your knowledge and skill set. Define and commit to a time frame for yourself because something will always get in the way. Know that commitment in advance, and then take that step to enroll. Now, if there's anyone sitting out there that likes details, you've probably been looking at this slide now and before when I put it up earlier and seen that there's a little asterisk up there by talk to CCAPs. And you're out there wondering, what does that mean? Well, that's that part where I mentioned talk to CCAPs, but be aware they may not have the most current up-to-date information. This is not the program that people who earned their CCAP 2 years ago went through. So some updates have been as recent as last year. So when someone tells you, oh, you've got to fill out this complicated form and talk about all of your history professionally and every presentation that you've ever done and get points for it, that is a thing of the past, right? There is no candidate data form. And you don't have to earn a certain number of points on that form to become a candidate in the program. You may also hear that you have to write a paper about a project that you've done where you've taken a leadership role, and that you have to submit that before you can become a candidate. That was something that candidates did in the past. It was called an executive skills portfolio. And both the candidate data form and the executive skills portfolio had to be submitted. You had to get a certain number of points on each of them and a certain number of points between them to even qualify to step into the examination room. That is not the case any longer. And I will tell you what the process is like for examination and qualifying to sit for the exam. But I want you to know that I had to walk up 10 miles in the snow uphill to earn my CCAP stories are a little different now. Still pretty rigorous. You may still have to walk up barefoot in the snow, but it's not what you will hear from some of the previous candidates. So let's talk about the enrollment process. Pretty simple. This is one of the updates that has happened. Used to be you had to fill out your application and take your exam on pencil and paper. Now we have some automation. So the first thing you do as an enrolling candidate is go to NCAP's member portal. And there are links for that on the NCAP website. And if you haven't set up an account in the member portal, that's the first thing that you'll do. You'll come to a page that sort of looks like what you see here on the screen, and far off to the right-hand side, you will see a piece that says sign up if you haven't already signed up. So you click that button, you fill in some information about yourself, you put in a password and a username, and you create your account. Now, most of you will already have an account in the portal because we use this at NCAP for a lot of different things. Our goal is to help you keep what you do with the National Association in one folder, one pocket. And this is the portal that happens under. So most of you, if you've registered for a webinar or a conference or convention or some other activity with NCAP, you've been here and you already have an account. So we want to get you signed into this portal. And once you get there and you're signed in, you'll see that menu across the top that's in white with the blue background. Home, events, ding, 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 CCAP credential, and then how-to guides. When you click on the CCAP credential, it will pull down a drop-down menu that gives you the options to apply for certification and then renew the certification. I can look back at my application history. I can use this system to report ongoing learning credits, which will come in handy for me when I'm renewing my certification. And I can just review what my learning history has been. But as a candidate and an applicant, I hope you've realized that the link you want to check is apply for certification. And when you do that, you will come to a screen that looks like this one. This is the application form itself, and it's a little more clunky than the actual portal screens because it's in a different package that handles applications. But some of the nice things about this are that when you get to this page, there will be a set of instructions you see on the little gray box on the left-hand side. And each time you pass through a part of the application and complete it, you'll get a little green check mark. So I skipped past the instructions for the purposes of this demonstration, and that's why we see a green check mark there. I hope you don't skip past the instructions. They're pretty important. And that's one piece of advice I have for you as a candidate. If you do nothing else well in this process, please make sure that you're stopping to read the instructions in this application, in the update emails and requirements that are sent to you, and certainly in the exam. One of the biggest problems that candidates encounter in the examination process is they may answer a question, and they may answer that question brilliantly, but it's not the question that the exam asked. It's not the directions that the instructions gave. So reading those instructions and really giving that some thought will be one of the biggest tips that you can follow through this entire process. So you get past the instructions, you come to this page about updating your personal content. The great news is, because you've already signed up, your personal content will be here for you. It will auto fill in this page. I've got those marked out because I didn't want you to focus on whoever's application this was, but your first name, your last name, email address, all of that will be there if you have populated it previously in the system. But if you need to make updates, this is a great place to do it. Something that may not be in there is a mobile phone number. And this place where we ask you at the bottom of that personal information section, can we send you CCAP related text messages? I promise you this is not to spam you. Ask any CCAP and they will tell you, no, I do not get text messages from the national office that are annoying. This is for two purposes. Sometimes we can't reach you by email. You may recall that I talked about those spam filters catching up with emails that come from the CCAP program to your inbox. That's a pretty frequent problem because we send emails to a lot of people and we are sometimes tagged as a potential spam source. So when we can't reach you by email and we're not able to reach you at your member agency, having your personal cell phone is a way that we can send you a quick text and say, hey, Angela, we haven't heard from you. This is coming up. Are you planning to participate or do you know about it? Right? So it's a way for us to reach you during your candidacy in case we haven't heard from you and other information isn't flowing. After you become a CCAP, your CCAP will be good for a period of 4 years. And then there's a renewal process. Well, let's say that 10 years down the road, you get the job offer of a lifetime. You're going to go to work for that big foundation where you'll be the one sitting on the other side of the table, giving out the grant money or whatever your dream job happens to be. I guess you know what mine is. And you have the opportunity to renew your CCAP, but you're no longer at your old email address or at your old employer. We need a way to reach you to let you know what your options are. So that mobile phone number can be very helpful. Use this page to fill out and correct any information that we don't have about you or that needs updated. And then you will simply push submit, which I don't have on the screen for you, but there is a button at the bottom of each page that says, you know, save and continue. Here's what it looks like. And that will save the information that you've entered up to that point and then move you on. You can also save your draft and exit. As long as you see that option on the screen, you can exit and come back to this application to finish it later. In this section, you're going to identify your employer type. CCAP is not open to the entire world. You would need to be an individual who is employed in the Community Action Network. So that means you work at a local public or private community action program, or you are with a state community action association, or perhaps you work with one of the national community action partners, or a federal agency that works tightly with the Community Action Network, such as HHS or DOE. You don't see that on this screen because I've updated it since I took this shot. But this is where we ask you to identify who is your employer, and that helps us know that this person is or is not eligible to participate in the program. It also tells us, hey, 60%, and I'm totally making this number up right now, you know, this percentage of our candidates are coming from public community action agencies. That gives us information that's pretty informative about who the target participation is coming from. One thing to think about is if you're not sure whether you work at a private or a public community action agency, you should ask. That is a fundamental piece of knowledge about the structure of the community action program that someone who wants to be a CCAP should know and understand. Because there are differences between the two types of organizations, and knowing and understanding those differences is part of the basic knowledge about knowing about our network and being a certified community action professional. So tell us about your employer type. And if you don't know your employer type, take this opportunity to learn it. If by chance you don't happen to work for an employer that is on the eligibility list, you may notice that we skipped a step over in our gray box. If you are an out-of-network applicant, the system will take you to the out-of-network explanation. And basically it's going to say, we love the fact that you're interested, but at this time you're not qualified. Have a nice day. But you don't need to see that. So it skips you past it and takes you to step 5, which is the recommendations. Your application requires 3 recommendations or statements of support to be completed. One of those statements must be from your executive director or chief operating officer, the highest ranking official employee in your organization. Or if you are the executive director or the chief operating officer, that needs to come from your board chair. This is a required recommendation source. So I'm telling you now that when you fill out your application, your first source that you should put in, just to make sure you get it there and don't forget it, it's going to be your CEO, your executive director, position that means the same but goes by a different name. Or if you are the ED, it will be your sitting board chair. Those are required. The 2 other resources or references that you can put in here are up to you. They need to be professional sources who are familiar with your work. So it can be a colleague at your community action agency. It could be your state association director. It could be a close partner that you work with on a regular basis. 2 other professional recommendations that you need to put in the system. Now, here's how this system works. And this is another thing that is not yesterday's CCAP program. When you put their names in, you'll put them in one at a time. You can probably see on this screen, it says add or edit a recommendation. And then when you click that, it brings up this add a certificate or certification reference. You're going to fill in that person's first name, last name, their title, their email address, and a phone number. Okay. All of that is important. Of particular importance is that email address and the title. Title's important because we need to know which one is your CEO or your board chair, that one absolutely required specific reference. Email is important because what happens next when you enter this into the system and you press move to the next recommendation, as soon as that gets entered, the system grabs it and says, all right, Amy has put down George as her reference. We're going to send an email to George right now. If George's email wasn't put in correctly, guess what? He's never going to receive that email. So make sure you get those email addresses in there correctly the first time to make sure that that reference gets sent to the right person. So George gets that email and it says, hey, George, Amy has applied to be a certified community action professional. And one of the things that's required for her application is references. If you click on this link, it'll take you to a short questionnaire. And I mean short, it's literally like 4 questions. You can fill it out online. As soon as you push the submit button, it attaches to Amy's application automatically, and it's all done. Your references do not need to write you a letter, and that letter does not have to be submitted to the CCAP office. References come in electronically. So you enter their name, enter their email address, the information that's requested by the form. The email gets automatically sent as soon as you move on to the next reference. At that moment, as soon as it hits the system, you will want to inform your references that you've put them down on your application and you need their help. And you will also want to check with them to make sure that they received that email. Sometimes those get caught up in spam filters as well. Now, I guarantee you it sends automatically to the address that you put in there. The question is, does it get caught up in a junk mail filter, a spam filter before it reaches their inbox? Is there a place for them to go look for that? Do they even know to expect it? Have you given them that heads up? Because once they get the email, filling it out is a breeze. And we haven't had anyone have trouble with that in terms of actually filling it out and getting it turned back in. It's the references who say, well, I've never received the email or I've never received the request, that some follow-up is required for. They can call us. Let's say I have a board chair who still doesn't use email or computers or whatever the barrier might be there. They can get in touch with us at the CCAP office and we will accommodate them by sending out a paper form or taking their reference over the phone and attaching it to the application for you. They might be able to email us the answers to the questions and we'll cut and paste them in. But for the most part, your references will be able to follow the electronic process, and it's very simple and it's instantaneous. You're making sure that you've got their email address in here correctly. And remember to put those titles in so that when we're looking, we can tell you've met the requirement to have the CEO submit a reference. We will periodically go back into your application and see if your references have responded. Because to be complete and accepted into the program, your entire application has to be fully filled out and received by NCAP. That means all 3 of those reference statements have to be finished by the deadline. So follow up on this regularly. Call us if you need to find out if references have or have not submitted. We'll be sending you updates to say, hey, you're still waiting on George. You might want to go talk to him. Here's the email address you put in for him. Is it correct? And when we do that, we are also resending the requests. So they don't get it more than once. If we haven't heard from them, we will continue to resend. All right, I'm going to get off of that topic and move us forward. You've got all 3 of your references in. The next part of the application takes you to the Community Action Code of Ethics. As a CCAP, you are committing right away at the very first part of your enrollment that you will remain committed to the Community Action Code of Ethics and you will follow the Community Action Code of Ethics. So in this part of the application, you will see each ethical guidance, and there's a place for you to check that you agree with your commitment to adopting that ethic, and there's a place for your initials. This ethical conduct, these vision and value parts of community action, these are a big part of what it means to be a CCAP and to hold that title. So we're not only asking you to check a box that says you agree to do that, but we're asking you to initial that box, sort of what signing would have been on pencil and paper. There are 6 ethical statements, and so you will do this 6 times. once for each ethical statement in the Code of Ethics. Okay, so make sure you do agree and your initials and move to the next one. After those ethical agreements, the next part of your application is checking everything over and paying the enrollment fee. If you're not ready to pay the enrollment fee, stop and save your application when you finish the Code of Ethics signatures and agreement buttons. The application tells you this about 40 really annoying times. If you're not ready to deal with payment, don't go past the Code of Ethics. So once you reach this page that talks about reviewing and paying, you're no longer able to go back in and edit your application. We can still go back in and do that for you. But for example, if you want to come back and pay with a discount code that your agency or your state association has given you, you won't be able to access your application if you go past those Code of Ethics pages. We'll have to put that discount code in for you. Doesn't matter. We can help you. It's not a big deal, but I do want you to know that if you go this far, you are signing, sealing, and delivering your application with no chance for you personally to go back in and change anything. We'll be there to help you, but you can stop and go back. Our enrollment fee is $600 per person for agencies that are members in good standing of the National Community Action Partnership. If your agency is not a member and you want to enroll as a CCAP candidate, you can do that, but it will cost you $635 rather than $600 even. Okay. So those group enrollments come in when your agency or your state association decides to purchase a group package. And the advantage of doing that is that when I'm purchasing more than one enrollment at a time, every fourth enrollment my group gets for free. So you're saving $600 every time you enroll a fourth person or a multiple of the fourth person. So if I enroll 4 people, my fourth person is free. I'm going to pay $600 for 3 people. That's going to be $1,800. I'm going to enroll that fourth person for the same amount of money, $1,800. If I'm buying 12 enrollments, I'm going to get 3 of those enrollments for free because every fourth enrollment is free. So you probably want to ask your agency, you want to ask your state association if they're doing a group enrollment package, because you want down on that if your agency wants to save a little bit of money. If they are doing an enrollment package, they will receive a discount code. And just like when you purchase something online from an online store, you may have a coupon code or some sort of percentage off code. And when you reach the checkout stand, it'll say, enter your code here. Exact same thing happens with your CCAP application. If you are using a discount code that's been provided through a group enrollment package, you will get to the checkout phase. There will be a box for that discount code. And when you enter it, it will take $600 off of your total. So your enrollment is $600 or $635 if you're not a member. Your group code will take $600 off. And that is how you pay with a group code. So talk to your association, talk to your agency to see if you should be a part of a group process before you pay. And if you do want to come in and use that group code later, stop when you finish your ethics so that you can come back and put that code in. Otherwise, call us and we'll help you out. That's your enrollment process. Once you finish that payment page, it submits your application, signed, sealed, and delivered from the enrollment form portion. Now remember, if you checked, I will pay later because my office requires me to send a paper check, or you're not paying by credit card or a discount code, we need to receive payment in our hands at NCAP before your application is considered complete. All 3 of your references must be received and put into your application before it is complete. And the key is that enrollment closes on October 31st. It opens on July 1st each year and closes on October 31st. Fireworks to pumpkins. That's the CCAP enrollment period. If we reach October 31st and you have a reference missing or payment hasn't been received by NCAP, your application is incomplete. Let me say that again because I messed it up. Your application is incomplete. Incomplete applications cannot be processed. Out of fairness to the rest of the world, there are no exceptions for incomplete applications. You can ask, but I guarantee you the commission will say no. So make sure everything is done by October 31st. And as I said, we will be sending you updates on your application. So please make sure you're getting those, make sure you pay attention to those, and are responsive to what still needs to be done on your application. That's our exam, or that's our enrollment process. I want to talk to you briefly now about the exam process. You're a candidate. Everything got turned in. You will now go from the enrollment straight into the opportunity to participate in an exam. Okay. There's no additional points to gather, no additional documents to submit, no essays to write and turn in. You go from candidacy to exam. And we have a 2-step examination process. See what I did there? Cute little, yeah. Okay. There are 2 types of examination events to become a CCAP. The first one is the proctored examination, right? That is the traditional examination. It's held on the 3rd Wednesday in April each year, once a year. It's online. You will be in a meeting room very similar to this one with other people who are taking the exam and a proctor. And you leave your camera on while you take the exam, and the proctor stares at you, stares at all of you while you take the exam, which sounds really weird, but it's not quite as creepy as it sounds. That is how we proctor our examinations. And so there are rules about what you can and can't do while you're taking the examination. You'll learn those later. Don't stress over those right now. You have up to 4 hours to complete the proctored exam. Everything on the exam is covered in the community action body of knowledge. So it's not as though we can just pluck a topic out of the air, write a question, and put it on the exam. It has to relate back to something that's in that basic skill set that community action leaders need to know that's outlined in the body of knowledge. There are 40 objective questions. Those are going to be like true, false, or matching, or other types of objective questions where there is a right or wrong answer or set of answers. And there are 4 essay questions where you have to compose responses during the exam. We release a study guide specific to that examination that year, each November. So a couple of months from now, we will already have 2025's proctored examination designed, And we will have the study guide, which is all of the reference material that those questions came from, put together for you. And you can use that as a study roadmap if you want to, because all of the material you will find in that study guide. Now, just a quick word, if we reference, say, Michael Harrington's The Other America in the exam, if there's a question about that, the study guide will reference Michael Harrington's Other America book, but it's not going to ask you to download or buy or read the entire book. The study guide will say, read chapter 6, because that's where the question and the answer to the question that's on the exam can be found. Okay, so it breaks it down into smaller pieces for you. Sometimes there's a 4-page research report. You may have to read the whole 4-page report, but it's not going to ask you to read that 600-word book just to prepare for one question on the exam. Okay. So we'll release that study guide in November, and that is the first examination process. And as I've already talked about it, everything from it comes from the body of knowledge topics, and every resource that we use to create a question will be referenced in the study guide for you. The second process is the independent writing assignment. This happens in May of each year. So you can see that it falls after the proctored exam in a time-wise fashion. This is something that's independently completed by you. It's supposed to be your work, your original thoughts. You write your answers and you submit them to us via email. You get 2 prompts to write questions about, and each year you will get a topic, and that topic changes from year to year. This part of the examination process examines your understanding of the body of knowledge sections B and E. Section B is the vision and values of community action. And section E, you may remember, is that section on theories of poverty, emerging approaches and strategies for fighting poverty. So when we select a topic and ask you to write answers to 2 questions about that topic, the goal is to have you write about how the vision and values relate to that topic, and also how that topic can be made real in a community structural change effort. In other words, how do we take the topic and take it from theory to application? What does that look like in a community action world, in my agency, programmatically as a potential, and in my community as a community impact or a policy issue? So this is going to give you a topic. It's going to ask you to write about vision and values of community action relating to that topic, and how that topic can be made real in our community action work. You have 15 days from the time we release the assignment and the topic to read the study guide that we release with it. There is a short study guide with materials, and to write and submit your responses. Okay. You need to pass both exams to become a certified community action professional. Let's talk about what that means. This is Claire. Claire is a candidate, and she's trying to decide, what order do I want to take the exams in? Because just because one falls in April and one falls in May does not mean that's the order that you have to choose for your CCAP journey. Claire needs to decide, am I going to do the online proctored examination first? Or do I want to wait and do the independent assignment first and come back to the online proctored exam next year. This is part of just thinking about your timeline and what's going to work for you. Okay. This is Ed. Ed decides, I'm going to take the exam in April, and I'm going to participate in the independent writing assignment in May. That's my timeline. I'm going to try this in 1 year. Yo decides that she wants to do the independent writing assignment first. And as we talked about with Claire, she's going to wait till the next year to tackle that proctored exam. And this is Mike. Mike says, like Ed, I'm going to start off. Well, actually, he starts off with the May independent writing assignment. Next year, he takes the April exam. But it turns out in May, he did not successfully pass the independent writing assignment. So guess what? He can take it again the following year at no penalty, no foul, no harm done. He just comes back and tries again. And remember, you've got 3 years of candidacy. So you can pace out when and how you want to take these exams. And if you're not successful the first time in an exam, dust yourself off, come right back to the table, and tackle that puppy again next year. So you get to decide the order in which you take the exams, and you may take an exam multiple times. Now, an important thing to realize is that once you pass an exam, you do not have to take it again. So if Mike passed his April proctored exam in his first year just fine, the next year he comes back, he does not have to take the proctored exam again. That's already checked off his list. He just has to tackle that independent writing assignment and pass it. So you've got your enrollment. You know you need to get your enrollment in July 1st through October 31st. Everything has to be in and complete by October 31st. You'll then go from enrollment to the first opportunity for examination is April of the following year. So those of you who have enrolled this season, your first opportunity, if you choose to take it, to sit for the proctored exam will be in April of 2025. That means you have this period between your enrollment and the exam to study in the way that is going to help you. Okay. You select your order and timing of that two-step examination process, and you earn your credential by successfully passing both the proctored exam and the independent writing assessment in 3 years. Some of us are visual creatures. So when you see this slide deck posted, you can also come and grab this flowchart if you want to. So it just takes you through the process we just talked about. I'm going to enroll, decide which exam I'm going to participate in, get my results. Have I passed one? Yep. I need to go back and pass the other one. Have I passed two? Hooray, I'm a CCAP. So there's a visual for you that'll be available when the slide deck is posted. So we've talked about whether CCAP is right for you, that this is not the process that you may have heard previous stories about. You've seen the enrollment process. You know that there are 2 steps in the examination phase. You get to choose the order in which you participate. And if you're not successful the first time around, absolutely fine. Come back and take that examination process again. We do have some resources available for you, and I've talked about some of these. There will be that study guide for each of the exam processes. There's the body of knowledge, but we also have a candidacy guide on our website. It's free to download. You go out there now, communityactionpartnership.com, go to the CCAP page, and one of the resources you'll find there is this candidacy guide. I highly encourage you to download, read it, bind it, keep it under your pillow at night. Make this your friend. It lists out everything that you need to do, as well as the important dates for your 2025 participation. We have commissioners that serve on the volunteer body that oversees this certification program. You can talk to them. And we also have CCAPs who have agreed to serve as mentors if you want someone to talk you through certain processes. And then we have staff. Mitzi and I are available to help answer questions, and soon we will be hiring a person to be the program director, so they will be available to you as well. So lots of resources out there to help you succeed. And I think I'm going to skip the renewing process right now in order to get some time in to answer your questions. So I'll leave that on the screen, but I'm going to peek out here and go to see what your chat questions are. And if I can answer them. And it looks like I have some commissioners that have been helping to answer questions. So thank you for that. Given that, I'm just going to ask for you to unmute and ask a question if you have it. I think my chat questions have been answered. Any questions? Oh, Robin.
Yes. So I did send an email, I believe, to you. So apologies if you're hearing this twice, but maybe it will help others as well. So your conversation or explanation about the recommendation reference emails. We had several people from my agency that went through the CCAP examination process in the 23-24 year. And all of the references received those emails immediately with no problems. This year, I'm the only person from my agency doing it, and the references have not received the emails, and our external IT folks have even pulled a report and said that there has been no attempted emails from anything related to NCAP, CCAP, all of the different iterations that we could think of around the date window that it should have sent. Do we have any suggestions?
Yes. So the first thing, I think I responded. So if you didn't receive that, then we need to talk deeper, because it means I think you're not getting emails from NCAP at all.
Yeah.
But so we'll check that, because that sounds like a pretty good indicator right there. But we also want to check where you're at in your application, and make sure that the right buttons have been pushed, and that, something hasn't not connected there. So we can look at that, but I really think, Robin, that there's something that's stopping our emails from even reaching your system if you didn't get my response. So let's follow up offline, and we'll check it out. We'll do some experimenting for you.
Sounds good.
But we will definitely make sure you or anybody else that's encountering a problem like this, we can get that information to your references in other ways. And like I said, they can even call us and say, hey, I want to give my reference for Robin, and we'll pull up your application and type it in for them. So we've got workarounds.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Yeah, and I see some other folks saying that maybe references haven't received those. So just reach out to us if your references aren't getting the email, and we'll do some investigating and troubleshooting with you. Anybody else? Questions? While you're thinking about it, Robin, I thought you were going to go this direction, so I want to mention it. If you were a candidate last year or even the year before, and you have not yet successfully earned your credential, you do not need to fill out another application. When you submit that application, you are a candidate for the following 3-year period. So your candidacy remains valid. Everything, you don't have to pay again. Everything is fine. You will just need to register, let us know you're going to participate in the exam when it's time to do that, and participate in the exam. No new applications. Anyone else that we can answer questions for?
I just want to ask really quickly, and I'm not IT, so this might be naive, but I wonder if some of the issues may be related to the fact that is it coming from a .com account, these notifications?
Yes.
Okay, so I wonder if some people are assuming it should be .org and they're calling that spam, so it's going into a spam filter before it even shows up.
It very well could be. I mean, you're right, Mia, there's probably 100 reasons why it could be happening, and that could very well be one of them. Yeah. Yeah. But extra credit points for you for remembering the .com piece. Those points won't help you with anything, but now you have them, and I'm proud of you.
Oh, shoot. Well, thanks.
Connie, I have a question.
Yes.
I know we once had, they were doing online studying together as well as in person. Is that still going to be available, or we're not going to be doing that anymore?
Well, that's a good question. And so one of the distinctions to think about is that there are study groups. NCAP does not organize those.
Oh,
We
okay.
don't facilitate those. Those happen where they happen. So you'll want to connect with, we've got a couple of commissioners, Leah, that you saw answering maybe in the chat some questions. She's a commissioner, and I know that her state association, MNCAP, offers a study group. We know Iowa offers a study group. Who else did we talk about, commissioners? Leah, do you recall?
I believe Texas is going to have one. Kentucky is looking into having one, and New York possibly. Oh, and Michigan as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we get those confirmations, we will post them on our webpage for CCAP, but it really pays to just ask around
Okay.
and find out who in your region or your area might be doing that. Of course, since we're online in some places, you can pretty much join across the nation if you want to.
Oh, okay, great.
Right.
Yeah, I see some people in the chat asking about
Mhm.
yeah, so okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, Tracy.
And Tani, I would just ask or add that folks can always reach out to their state association, because they may have an idea of other states that are providing study groups that they could link you into. Someone was asking about North Carolina study group. I don't know of any that's happening there, but perhaps Sharon has a connection that she is going to filter her folks through.
Thank you. Thanks, Leah. Leah Paletti, everyone, Commissioner Extraordinaire.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Well, you all have stayed with it, and I appreciate that a great deal. Really excited for you to be a part of this upcoming cohort. It's going to be a great year for the CCAP program, and be thinking now about what your timeline looks like, and understand that at present our practice is to recognize new CCAPs at NCAP's annual convention, which happens each year towards the end of August. This year we will be in Detroit. So might be thinking about putting that on your calendar, but also realizing that the process, if you go through this year, you won't actually know whether you've earned your certification until we reach mid-June, early to mid-June. So that's our timeline. We're here to help. Thank you for joining. Stay with it. Let us know what we can do, and otherwise just have a heck of a wonderful rest of your day.